Lost generation. Born between 1883 and 1900, the Lost generation came of age during World War I. Many served or witnessed the horrors of modern trench warfare and industrialized killing. The phrase is commonly traced to American novelist Gertrude Stein and was popularized by Ernest Hemingway, who used it as an opening quote in his novel The Sun Also Rises. After the war, they endured the 1918 influenza pandemic and returned to societies that often felt shallow and materialistic, helping to define the Roaring Twenties with jazz, flappers, prohibition, and growing mass consumerism. Large groups of artists and writers gathered as expatriates in Paris, especially around Montparnasse, where cafes and studios became creative hubs. Writers such as Hemingway and Fitzgerald, alongside modernists like Eliot and Pound, experimented with fragmentation and irony. Some also drew on stream of consciousness techniques. Their work explored disillusionment, alienation, and a loss of faith in old values, and many later struggled through the Great Depression and witnessed a new generation fight in World War II. Their stylistic experiments and skeptical outlook helped reshape 20th century literature, art, and attitudes toward authority and progress. Greatest generation. Born between 1901 and 1927, the Greatest generation was shaped by the Great Depression and became the core of the World War II generation. Many fought overseas or supported the war effort at home. After the conflict, large numbers used the GI Bill, known formally as the Servicemen's Readjustment Act of 1944, to buy homes and attend college. Although access to those benefits was often limited for black veterans and other minorities because of systemic discrimination. Journalist Tom Brokaw popularized the name The Greatest Generation in his 1998 book, though historians debate the usefulness of single-generational labels. Returning veterans and wartime industrial mobilization helped fuel post-war economic expansion, build a broad middle class, and produce the baby boom, while the large wartime entry of women into industry helped start longer-term social change, even as many women were pushed out of those jobs after the war. Their values of duty, unity, and hard work left a lasting imprint on mid-20th century America, though historians continue to explore the era's complexities and uneven legacies. Silent generation. Born between 1928 and 1945, the Silent Generation followed the Greatest Generation and preceded the Baby Boomers. They grew up shaped by the hardships of the Great Depression and World War II, a time that instilled in them a value for stability, steady work, and thriftiness. They came of age in the cautious prosperity of the 1950s, a period of economic recovery that benefited their relatively smaller generation. Though often characterized by a low public profile which earned them their silent nickname, they quietly built institutions, filled professions, and expanded the post-war middle class. This cohort also played a key role in creating 1950s consumer and suburban culture, and provided soldiers and citizens for the Korean War and the early Vietnam era. At the same time, members of this generation initiated major cultural and political changes, including leaders and early activists in the civil war rights movement, like Martin Luther King Jr., and innovators in rock and roll, such as Elvis Presley. Their complex legacy both reinforced mid-century institutions and seeded the larger social movements of the 1960s and beyond. Baby boomers. Born between 1946 and 1964, baby boomers emerged from the post-war surge in births and came of age during a period of economic expansion and cultural transformation. They grew up with rock and roll, mass television, and the space race, and many benefited from expanding suburbs, broader access to higher education, and rising homeownership, though these gains were not distributed equally by race, class, or region. As young adults, older boomers helped drive major social changes through the civil rights movement, anti-war protests, and the 1960s counterculture, while other members of this large and diverse cohort moved toward conservative politics in later decades. Through demands for self-expression, new patterns of consumption, and changing workplace and family expectations, the boomer generation reshaped Western culture for decades and left a legacy marked by both social progress and notable contradictions. Generation X. Born between 1965 and 1980, Generation X bridged the baby boomers and millennials and grew up during big shifts in family life. With more dual-income households and higher divorce rates that left many children looking after themselves after school. They were among the first to grow up with personal computers, video games, VCRs, and cable television, and they watched the rise of MTV and youth-oriented mass culture. They came of age as the Cold War wound down and the Berlin Wall fell, and young Gen Xers experienced the music and style of punk, grunge, and alternative culture. Many learned independence and practical problem-solving early, which helped make the cohort known for self-reliance, skepticism, and a desire for work-life balance. Economically, they saw both innovation and instability, from the personal computer and dot-com boom to recessions that shaped career paths. As a smaller cohort than the boomers or millennials, Gen Xers later moved into leadership in business, media, and tech startups, and helped shape workplace culture, entrepreneurship, and early internet adoption. Millennials. Born between 1981 and 1996, millennials came of age as the information age arrived and were the first generation to grow up with widespread home internet and later smartphones and social media. They entered adulthood during major global shocks such as the September 11th attacks and the 2008 financial crisis, which made early careers in home buying more uncertain for many. Culturally, they tend to be more progressive on issues like diversity and inclusion, and they popularize social networking and digital native ways of communicating. Economically, many faced rising costs for higher education, growing student debt, and tighter housing affordability, and these pressures helped drive shifts like delayed marriage and childbearing, and greater interest in flexible work or gig economy jobs. At the same time, millennials pushed changes in workplaces and services, fueling growth in tech startups, the sharing economy, remote work, and digital innovation, so their influence on work, media, and social norms has been large and lasting. Generation Z. Born between 1997 and 2012, Generation Z grew up as true digital natives. They have known smartphones, high-speed internet, and social media from a very young age. They watched the rise of online video, streaming, and short-form apps and learned to make and share content. Many came of age amid global events like climate strikes and the COVID-19 pandemic, which disrupted schooling and early careers. Gen Z is often described as pragmatic and socially conscious. They tend to value diversity and inclusion, show strong interest in climate action and social justice, and are more open about mental health while also reporting higher levels of anxiety and stress. They prefer authenticity and flexible work and are attracted to entrepreneurship and creator-led careers. As they enter adulthood, they are already reshaping media, commerce, and politics through viral media, digital entrepreneurship, and new forms of online activism. Generation Alpha. Born between the early 2010s and the 2020s, Generation Alpha is today's youngest generation and is largely the children of millennials. They are the first generation born entirely in the 21st century, and from infancy have been surrounded by touchscreens, tablets, smartphones, voice assistants, and streaming media. Many spent key early years during the COVID-19 pandemic, which increased online schooling and screen-based entertainment, and birth rates have fallen in many countries, so alphas are smaller in number in some places. They are growing up amid rapid advances in artificial intelligence, automation, and smart home technology, which brings both strong early digital literacy and concerns from experts about high screen time, reduced outdoor play, attention and social skill effects, and exposure to data collection and privacy risks. At the same time, Generation Alpha is growing up in increasingly diverse family structures and more urbanized environments across many regions, factors that are expected to influence their education, health, and future work expectations. Generation Beta. Born between 2025 and 2039, Generation Beta is the cohort after Generation Alpha. The name was coined by demographer Mark McCrindle and is already used to describe children born from about 2025 onwards. McCrindle and other analysts estimate betas will make up roughly 16% of the world's population by 2035. Most will be the children of younger millennials and older members of Generation Z. They are only just beginning to be born, so much about them remains speculative and based on early trends rather than long-term data. Experts expect betas to grow up deeply surrounded by artificial intelligence and advanced digital tools, more so than any earlier generation. Demographers also predict this cohort will be highly urbanized and globally diverse. Observers flag possible risks such as privacy and data exposure, misinformation, and the effects of heavy early tech use, while also noting likely strengths like high digital literacy and strong early awareness of climate and global issues. If you like this video, subscribe for more.